STech here. Today I'm going to be showing you how I made my quarantine enforcement platform interface from Subnautica. So take a look at this picture I'm about to put up on screen of what it looks like in game, and then after you're done looking at that, we'll jump right into how I built this. So I thought that since this was a longer build, that I should do some explaining while you watch me build it, because it really is rather complex and it took me like 8 hours to build. So right now I'm starting with like 2 base side pieces. I'm just gonna call it the whole thing, like I guess the body I'm gonna call it. So I made 2 pieces for the sides, and I'm cutting out these little triangles. Or not triangles, little like rectangles with the slope on top. I'm cutting out 2 little ones, and I'm gonna use those later in the build. So I'm cutting out strips, and I'm changing my blade for my knife. So I cut out these strips and I wrap it around the edge of the 2 side pieces, because this build was tricky to make because it had a lot of different angles and like levels. Like there's all these different pieces with different like angles and levels and like heights. So there's lots of different pieces of cardboard involved. I'm cutting out doing. So I'm cutting out the back piece for this build and connecting the 2 sides to that. See, okay, that's what I just did. I just glued one side on and the second side. Now I'm going to cut out the front piece, so I'm doing some measurements, measuring how big I need to make it. Now I'm going to glue it onto the top, and then I have to kind of like flip it upside down and like do some cuts to make it so that it will bend, and then I'm going to glue it down. Looking at my phone, looking at the picture I have, doing some more measurements. So now I'm making this little like box that goes on the front of this whole thing, and I'm cutting out the top of this main body part. I'm cutting out a square so that the part that comes up and down, comes out of there, can fit inside. So I'm cutting out this little square thing, and it's going to be attached to the front of the whole build, and it's going to have some like designs on the front and a couple moving parts with magnets. So I decided that it was a little too big, so I kind of cut off part of it. So I'm starting to make like this design, and I have this piece of cardboard, I'm drawing it on and cutting it out. And it has like 3 different pieces. There's a middle piece that doesn't move, and there's 2 little side like hook arm kind of things that can move up and down with magnets. So I'm going to make all those pieces, and I'm going to cut out multiple of each of them so that it's a lot thicker. I mean, this is already double thick cardboard to start with, because I wanted it to be a really sturdy build, but I wanted these pieces to be especially thick. So I cut out all the pieces. Now I have to glue them together. So I glue the middle pieces together, and then I glue it onto the little box, and then the little arm things, I glue all those together. And then I'm starting to work on the part with the magnets. So like on the back of this little box, I like cut out like slits, but not just barely in, like not all the way through, but just enough that the magnets are really close together. Like there's one in the back and one in the front, and they're close together, so it has like a strong hold versus like how strong the magnet's hold would be if it was all the way through the cardboard. And then I attach the magnet to the front to these little arms, and that's what makes them move. So I think I'm about to glue the little box to the front, and I made this bottom piece for it, not actually glued on, so that if something happens to the magnets, I can pop that off and see what happened, because I don't want to have to cut everything open if something happens. So I'm starting to make like the top of this whole build, and the top is going to kind of split into 2 pieces and then open away when the middle part like kind of comes out of the inside. That's why there's this giant hole in the center of this, is because I'm about to build another piece that comes out of there. I'll build that piece after I build the 2 little covers for the top. So it kind of was tricky to make those because there was a weird angle I tried to measure the angle, and it took me a couple tries to get the right piece. A couple ones I cut out just were totally the wrong size and didn't fit at all. And then some pieces were the right size, but just didn't look good, so I didn't use those either. So I think I just about finished those pieces. Yeah, there we go. So I finished those, letting them dry. Now I'm gonna do some measurements to see how big I need this inside piece to be. So let's see. Yeah, I cut out a couple of the first pieces, and then I'm using that as a template to trace more of the pieces. And then have this. Yeah, there we go. I cut that piece out. It's kind of like has a rectangle with like the sloped sides. Those are going to be like the side pieces of this part that moves up and down, and then there's two rectangles that are the front and back. Now I have that piece right there, sticking out. So I'm doing some drawings on it just so I know there's some like designs and cutouts that I have to glue onto the front. So I'm drawing all the designs on so that I know where to put these pieces. And you can see in that shot there, you can see the stuff I drew on. I'm starting to cut out like this button, and it took me a little while to make it because I wanted to make it so it could actually like press in. And I tried some stuff with rubber bands. It didn't end up working, but I still got it so that I could kind of push it a little bit, and you could put like a real button behind it if you wanted it to actually be like a real switch. So I'm starting to put some magnets in to hold on to these side pieces, and I also put like a little line of glue around the bottom of this piece. This whole piece that moves up and down, so that when you pull it up, it doesn't come out all the way. It like stops just at the right spot rather. So I like, same thing as I did with those notches for the pieces that slide up and down. I cut like a little piece, like rectangle piece out of the cardboard, but not just barely in, like all the way through. I left a little bit so that it wouldn't rip, and then I glued the magnets in. And now I'm clamping these. Those are the two top pieces you can see right there. And what happens is they can magnetically attach to the sides of this piece that move up and down, and they can also click to each other and then rest on top of it when it closes. And that's something that took me a little bit to do because I had to make sure the magnets were all lined up correctly so that they would click together and be in the right orientation. So I'm starting to do this like little wire head, that thing that comes out. It kind of, when you walk up to it, kind of comes out and has this needle. And for a little while I was trying to make the needle like spring out. It was like a skewer, and I was gonna make it spring out and have like a little button to release it, but that didn't work out, so I ended up just doing just the head with like, you just could stick the... Okay, and we're back. And now let's show you what you've all been waiting for, the big reveal. So here's the finished product. It's really enormous. It's actually giant. Not quite life-sized, but still very huge. So let's show you kind of in action. So what's gonna happen is, in-game you'd walk up to it, and what's gonna happen is, the first thing you'll do is it'll open up.
12 seconds later.
Okay, so it'll pop up like that. These, which had previously been on top, will break apart. Pull that out of there. That clicks onto there. These are all the magnets. I can find that. This thing is huge. I hope you can still see that. Maybe I should put it down a little bit. Okay, that's a little better. So we have these things that click on the sides. So what happens is when you're gonna reach to press this button right here, and what's gonna happen is these two things will come up and it'll kind of generate like a force field kind of thing, and it'll freeze your hand before you can grab it. So let's talk about how I did that magnetic stuff, and also for maintenance. I think I talked about this in the time lapse. Pop that out. This panel pops out so you can access all the magnets inside. case anything comes apart. So this is basically what I did. I took these little magnets I have. They're kind of like, I think they're advertised as like a fidget toy or something. So I took 2 on each side, and what I did was, if you see, like this, you can move up and down, and you can pull them apart really easily. But what happens is when I cut the slit in, just leaving just the paper on this side, what happens is the connection is a lot stronger. So what happens is, so on this side, like, you can't get that one off because it's just too small to grip, and just it has a strong connection. You can probably twist it off, but that's the same thing that happens here. You can, like this, you have more leverage obviously because you have this whole lever thing, but that's basically how it works. Then you have, on this side, you have the arm attached to this, and then it moves up and down. And what happens is when you reach the button like this, what's going to happen is this whole thing is going to come out. So this is the part where I talked about. I was trying to make like this skewer stick out, which you'd think would be really dangerous. So I made sure it wasn't pointed. That worked. I had the thing, like it had the springs inside the pen, and you push it down and it would spring out. But the thing is, I didn't have a good launching mechanism to like hold it back until I wanted it to be released. So let's see if I can just pop this out. There we go. So what's going to happen is, you're going to be your hand here, and it's going to kind of like, it's going to look at you, and then it's going to get this needle, overly large needle, and stab you and test your blood. And if your blood is like bad, if you're infected, then it will turn red and it won't let you in. Otherwise, these will come down and it'll let you press the button. Now we've just about come to the end of the video, yet I haven't talked about the templates, and that's because I'm making a separate video on the templates because there's so many templates and they take a long time to explain. So I'm making a separate video on that, so if you want to learn about how to use templates, you can watch that video. And if you want to see how I painted this, then you can watch that separate video as well. Okay, I think that just about wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.